The Maccabean Revolt. The oppressed Jews were not long in finding a champion. When the emissaries of Antiochus arrived at the village of Modin, about 15 miles west of Jerusalem, they expected the aged priest, Mattathias, to set a good example to his people by coming forward to offer a pagan sacrifice. When Mattathias refused, a timid Jew came forward to perform the sacrifice. The enraged priest approached the altar and slew both the apostate Jew and the emissary of Antiochus. With his 5 sons, Mattathias destroyed the heathen altar and then fled to the hills to avoid reprisal. Others of Orthodox persuasion joined the family of Mattathias in waging guerrilla warfare on the Syrians and the Hellenistic Jews who supported them. The Orthodox would not fight on the Sabbath day, with the result that they were at a distinct military disadvantage. On one Sabbath a band of the Orthodox was surrounded and slaughtered, for they would not defend themselves. Following this episode, Mattathias suggested the principle that fighting in self-defense is permissible on the Sabbath day. Soon after the beginning of the revolt, Mattathias died. He had urged his followers to choose as military leader his third son Judas, Judah in Hebrew, known as the Maccabee, a word usually interpreted to mean the hammer. The choice was a good one, for more and more Jews rallied to the cause. The Maccabees, as the followers of Judas were called, were able to hold their own against a series of Syrian armies thrown against them. By a surprise night attack, Judas annihilated an army of Syrians and Hellenistically minded Jews at Emmaus, and then marched toward Jerusalem with the booty he had seized. The Maccabees entered the city and took everything except the opera. They entered the temple and removed all the signs of paganism which had been installed there. The altar dedicated to Jupiter was removed and a new altar erected to Israel's God. The statue of Jupiter was ground to dust. Beginning with the 25th of Kislev, or December, they celebrated an 8-day feast of dedication known as Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. In this way they marked the end of the 3-year period during which the temple had been desecrated. Peace was short-lived, however. The Syrian general Lysias defeated the Maccabees in a battle near Jerusalem, and besieged the city itself. During the siege, however, Lysias learned of trouble at home and made an offer of peace to the Jews. The laws against the observance of Judaism would be repealed and Syria would refrain from interference in the internal affairs of Judea. Menelaus was to be removed from office and the high priesthood given to a mild Hellenizer named Alcimus. Lysias promised that Judas and his followers would not be punished. The walls of Jerusalem would be razed, however. A council comprising Maccabean army officers, respected scribes, and elders of the Orthodox party was convened at Jerusalem to determine the action to be taken. Against the council of Judas the peace terms were accepted. Alcimus became high priest, Menelaus was executed, and Judas left the city with a few followers. The fears of Judas proved correct, however, for Alcimus seized and executed many of the Orthodox party. Loyal Jews again turned to Judas and the civil war was renewed. Judas, with an ill-equipped army of 800 men, met a large Syrian army and died in battle. Thus the first phase of the Maccabean struggle was ended. Jonathan, a brother of Judas, fled across the Jordan with several hundred Maccabean soldiers. They were ill-equipped to wage battle, but the next victories were in the field of diplomacy. 2 pretenders to the Syrian throne each sought help from the Jews. They saw in Jonathan the man best able to raise and lead a Jewish army. By playing a delaying action, Jonathan was able to support the winning candidate and at the same time make treaties with Sparta and Rome. Before the war was over, Jonathan was high priest, governor of Judea, and a member of the Syrian nobility. His brother Simon became governor of the Philistine coastal area. Jonathan was able to promote the internal prosperity of Judah, and when he died his brother Simon succeeded him as ruling high priest. Simon was advanced in years when he came to the throne. His major victory was in the field of diplomacy, for by recognizing Demetrius as rightful king of Syria he secured for the Jews immunity from taxation which amounted to acknowledgement of independence. Simon was also to starve out the Syrian garrison at the Acra and to occupy the cities of Joppa and Bithsura. In recognition of his wise rule, the leaders in Israel named Simon, leader and high priest forever, until there shall arise a faithful prophet. Simon was the last of the sons of Mattathias, and this act legitimized a new dynasty which is termed Hasmonean, presumably derived from an ancestor of the Maccabees named Asmoneus or, in Hebrew, Hashmon. In 134 B.C., Simon and two of his sons were murdered by an ambitious son-in-law. A third son, John Hyrcanus, managed to escape and succeed his father as hereditary head of the Jewish state.